In this video, we're diving into the intertwined issues of homelessness and urban violence in Oklahoma, shedding light on the daily dangers vulnerable individuals face on the streets. Recent attacks starkly reveal how the homeless are targeted, compounding the challenges of poverty and neglect. As tensions rise between displaced communities and public safety concerns, deeper questions emerge about state-provided solutions. Can Oklahoma truly tackle its homelessness issues and create lasting change? Let's explore. But before we start, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any updates. The scale of the crisis in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is grappling with a profound homelessness crisis. The 2024 homeless count revealed 1,838 people experiencing homelessness, a shocking 28% increase from the previous year. Behind these numbers lie real struggles. 24% are forced to sleep outdoors in all weather conditions, while 62% reside in overcrowded shelters. Even more concerning, 9% of young adults under 24 lack a stable place to stay. This isn't just a simple issue. It's a full-blown emergency demanding urgent action. Economic pressures and homelessness. Soaring inflation is making life even harder for Oklahoma City residents, pushing many towards homelessness. Exorbitant rent and food prices force families to choose between housing and meals, while seniors on fixed incomes struggle as costs outpace their savings. For those already homeless, inflation has been the final blow. Job losses, evictions, and unaffordable living expenses have left them desperate. While programs like Key to Home have reduced chronic homelessness by 33%, the increasing number of people losing their homes due to economic pressures overshadows these efforts. With average rents over $1,200 and basic necessities becoming expensive, even shelters are battling rising operating costs. Without real solutions like rent control, fair wages, and expanded affordable housing, more residents will continue to be pushed out of the system. We've seen a truly remarkable increase in the cost of rent in Oklahoma City. And that's really what's driving the numbers of homelessness in Oklahoma City: the availability of affordable housing. This is especially true in a situation where Oklahoma City's housing crisis is out of control, wages haven't changed, and rents are skyrocketing. Minimum wage and the housing crisis. The state's minimum wage of $7.25, unchanged since 2008, is far from reality, especially considering a living wage now requires over $15.86 per hour to get by. With average rents reaching $1,036 for a one-bedroom and $1,800 for a two-bedroom, minimum wage earners must work 88 hours a week just to afford a one-bedroom apartment. Under fair housing standards, rent shouldn't exceed $377 based on 30% of income, less than half of reality. This isn't an affordability gap. It's an extreme burden on workers across all of Oklahoma. Oklahoma City's housing market is clearly rigged against its poorest residents. Landlords raise rents while wages remain pitifully low, forcing families to choose between rent, food, and health care. The city's fair market rent is a bitter irony. There's nothing fair in a system where a full-time job can't cover basic housing rent without fundamental policy changes, a living wage, rent control, or large-scale affordable housing investments. Oklahoma City will continue to push its most vulnerable residents into homelessness with every unaffordable bill. The government's approach: solution or concealment? The Oklahoma City government's efforts toward homeless encampments include placing large boulders under bridges where many seek refuge. In 2025, when officials evicted 35 individuals from under such a bridge, only 27 were provided shelter, leaving the remaining 8 back on the streets. The city calls this progress, but these brutal tactics merely conceal human suffering rather than solve it. While the Key to Home program helps some, forced evictions prove that Oklahoma prefers to make homelessness invisible rather than truly fix it. Until leaders address the root causes like exorbitant rents, poverty wages, and lack of services, this crisis will continue to devastate lives while officials turn a blind eye. Access to health care and its consequences. Oklahoma's homeless population faces a devastating health crisis, with basic medical access blocked by impossible barriers like lack of transportation, identification, and the daily struggle for survival. Chronic conditions like diabetes, hypertension, and HIV go untreated, with emergency rooms serving as the only lifeline, sending over 70% of homeless patients back to the streets without follow-up care, as happened to over 300 Oklahomans in 2022. The tragic case of Howard Holton, forced to sleep in an emergency room after hip surgery due to lack of recovery facilities, exposes a system that abandons the most vulnerable, leaving them in a cycle of worsening health and preventable suffering. Extreme weather and mental health gaps compound the suffering. Oklahoma's scorching summers and freezing winters send countless homeless residents to hospitals. Over 100 heat-related emergency calls were made in Oklahoma City in 2024 alone. Already insufficient mental health services face funding cuts that could close critical resources like Transition House, depriving vulnerable individuals of addiction or psychiatric care. Post-treatment recovery becomes nearly impossible when recovery facilities refuse those needing rehabilitation. This neglect creates a costly cycle for everyone. Each homeless individual costs Oklahoma roughly $1,000 annually in emergency medical, police, and social service expenses, a cost that could be reduced through preventive care and housing investments. With hospitals overflowing, the human and financial toll proves one thing: ignoring this crisis is not only cruel, but economically reckless. Oklahoma must choose between funding real solutions or forever paying for the consequences of neglect. Homeless children and education. Did you know that over 2,000 students in Oklahoma City public schools lack stable housing every year, sleeping in cars, tents, or on friends' couches? This hidden humanitarian crisis disrupts classrooms statewide, with countless more uncounted due to unstable living conditions. At Positive Tomorrows, Oklahoma City's only school for homeless youth, 83% of students live in shelters or temporary housing, while 1 in 5 are couch homeless, just 1 eviction away from the streets. The impact is severe. Homeless students face 3 times the dropout risk of their peers, battling health crises and traumas while trying to learn. Without stable addresses, many lose access to school meals, counseling, and basic supplies. Though schools like Positive Tomorrows provide a lifeline, the system is overwhelmed. Oklahoma's social services currently reach less than 40% of homeless youth. These students aren't just at risk of falling behind academically. They're fighting to survive in a state where child homelessness has increased by 28% since 2020. Every unowned backpack represents a future at stake. Violence and safety concerns. Oklahoma's aggravated assault crisis disproportionately affects its most vulnerable, the homeless. In 2022, the state saw 3,134 aggravated assaults, a 17% increase in a decade, well above national averages. Unhoused individuals face exponentially higher risks, exacerbated by stress and street insecurity. A horrific attack on homeless man Tillman Shannon by 9 teenagers in Oklahoma City was live-streamed, exposing extreme brutality. Police arrested Veronica Benavente, 19, and Eric Gomez, 18, with 3 minors, but 4 suspects remain at large. The attackers face charges including aggravated assault and conspiracy, with bonds up to $15,000. This incident highlights how violence against homeless individuals is often dismissed, emboldening further attacks. Without stable housing, the homeless are easy targets, and assault trauma deepens cycles of addiction and mental health crises. Oklahoma City streets see the homeless over-policed as criminals, but underprotected as victims. Breaking this cycle requires prioritizing safe housing as crime prevention, offering specialized victim services, and holding perpetrators accountable. Until then, Oklahoma's most marginalized will continue to suffer. Substance abuse and homelessness. Oklahoma's homelessness crisis fuels a worsening drug crisis. Over 1,800 people on OKC streets, many with untreated mental illness, turn to drugs like fentanyl and methamphetamine. The lack of housing and health care creates a perfect storm. Homeless Oklahomans are 10 times more likely to die from overdose, with fentanyl deaths up 21% in 2023. Meth, involved in 60% of Oklahoma's overdose deaths, is a common choice for survival. While over 5,000 doses of naloxone have prevented deaths without housing and treatment, these interventions are temporary. Shelters report 73% of clients battle substance abuse, but less than 20% access long-term treatment. Until Oklahoma addresses its housing crisis as a public health emergency, the drug epidemic will continue. The solution is housing, healthcare, and pathways out of desperation. Survival sex work and sexual violence. Oklahoma's homelessness fuels a dangerous rise in survival sex work, especially for women and LGBTQ+ youth. Desperate individuals are forced into prostitution for basic needs. Recent stings show many arrested are victims. A February 2024 operation with 62 arrests found over 40% were recently homeless, some with eviction notices. The state's punitive approach ignores root causes. While felony charges for buyers are progress, they don't address why people enter the trade. 1/3 of homeless women in OKC engage in survival sex work, often to avoid outdoor assaults, rates over 70%. Clearing the streets often re-traumatizes victims. Arrests leave criminal records, blocking housing and employment. Despite raids, the South Robinson Avenue corridor saw a 28% increase in homeless sex workers in 2024. Real solutions require housing-first policies and dedicated shelters. Crime and homelessness misconceptions. Oklahoma's homeless face a hidden epidemic of sexual violence, with less than 30% of assaults reported. They rarely seek help due to distrust and lack of safe access to justice. The state's failure perpetuates trauma. Despite recording many crimes, homeless individuals are far more often victims than perpetrators. Theft by the homeless is usually for survival, not malice. Addressing root causes like food insecurity and housing shortages is crucial to reducing these issues. The link between domestic violence and homelessness. Homelessness and domestic violence create a dangerous cycle. Over 50% of Tulsa's homeless reported domestic violence in 2023. Victims face impossible choices, stay with abusers, or face limited options on the streets. Many return to abusers, almost 40% of OKC shelter victims, due to lack of alternatives. Legal protections exist but are ineffective with long affordable housing waiting lists. With only 12 domestic violence shelter beds per 100,000 residents, many remain unprotected. Urgent investment in transitional housing and economic support is needed to break this cycle. Public opinion and pathways to solutions. Public opinion on homelessness in Oklahoma City is complex, with 83% of residents expressing dissatisfaction. While police outreach programs exist, they are overshadowed by aggressive enforcement, like encampment evictions, showing a preference for criminalization. Bills aimed at jailing those sleeping outdoors exacerbate the problem. However, promising models like the 988 Lifeline, 57% decrease in police mental health calls, and social worker collaboration prove redirection works. Oklahoma's next step is clear: shift funding to housing-first solutions. Solutions exist. Consistent deployment is needed. In summary, Oklahoma's growing crisis demands more than quick fixes. Lasting solutions require addressing root causes like lack of affordable housing, mental health care, and fair wages, while treating individuals with dignity. The suffering on our streets demands action now. Can leaders and citizens unite to fix this broken system? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe for updates.